In 2015, Caleb was invited to join with the Red Crescent Society of Iran, delivering medical supplies to war-torn Yemen. The rescue ship created an international incident, and Saudi Arabia bombed the port of Hodeidah 8 times in a single day to keep Caleb and the...
Like, just change the music, my dude, or something, I don't know. Oh, that's right, everybody. It's time for more Caleb. Why, you say? Why should we speak about someone like this? Someone who's in a decided minority on the left at the end of the day, you know? Because there's really only one Caleb. I mean, I don't think that Nazbols are a huge problem. I'm just gonna say that. I don't think that Nazbols are a big problem on the left. I think it's an online thing, and I think there are definitely a few. Okay, there's a few of them, no question. But I do not think that it's some overarching, I don't think that this is a thing that the left has to concern itself with on a regular basis. Okay, I really don't. I mean, prove me wrong. Maybe I'll be eating these words, something to that effect. If you didn't know who he is, though, him and Bad Empanada have been going back and forth for a little while now. They've been having some feuds, some online feuds. I just want to show this quickly because this would be the only thing that I want people to know in terms of like what to watch out for when you hear a lot about this idea that there seems to be some kind of right-wing fascist pipeline and that the Hill and Rising are trying to contribute towards that, where we're trying to normalize the idea of right-wing populism in that if you've got Tucker Carlson coming up on a show of some kind, like you need to worry about that. Like Tucker Carlson is a bad person, obviously. So if Tucker Carlson is saying that corporations are bad and that globalists are bad and that, don't get it twisted. You have to understand what he means, what his aims are, what he's doing when he's saying this kind of stuff. And of course, for him, globalists, quote unquote in brackets, usually mean something different than what it does. To people who say you will never see this on the left, that is also not true. Case in point, we have world famous political commentator, RT employee, and host Caleb Maupin, who, of course, is tweeting out this wonderful little piece of logic here. In my opinion, anti-Dugan hysterics are a big part of Russophobia and left warmongering. Dugan is not a fascist. He's an important Russian intellectual with a unique perspective. He's conservative and certainly not a leftist. He's got his own views. He's got his own views. Now you see? Now you see. Yes. He's not a good person, though, everyone. I'm just going to read some funny things about Dugan because it's actually pretty hilarious. Alexander Gelyevich Dugan. Okay. Alexander Gelyevich Dugan is a Russian neo-fascist who claims to have created the fourth political theory beyond capitalism, communism, and fascism, combining the best elements of all three. Most people in the civilized world, well, except for a few, deem him to be a hate-monger with Nazi-Stalinist who rhetorically promotes expansionist wars for reclaiming Mother Russia's former glory without ever having gone to any actual wars himself, despite being, or most likely claiming to be, one of Vladimir Putin's pet ideologues. The Nazi-Stalinist party is actually true. His stated political position is National Bolshevism. I'm sure most people hopefully know about National Bolshevism. Again, it's an outrageous minority amongst the left, okay? There's not some huge problem of people converting to National Bolshevism, but if you are, yes, you are basically supporting combines far-right and far-left positions. The origin of National Bolshevism can be traced back to the years following the Russian Revolution, when nationalist groups supported the new communist government, broke with Lenin over the national question, and sought their own countries, or moreover, a Russian nationalist form of socialism. It was briefly popular in the Germany in the 1920s. Its German supporters identified with the USSR because of their opposition to Western liberalism and capitalism. So you get the worst parts of all ideologies fused into one, it kind of feels like, Anyways, I don't think people should be using Rational Wiki as an exclusive source. I'm not putting that up here in order to justify any of the things I'm talking about when it comes to Dugan. I'm putting it up here because this next line is absolutely hilarious, and whether or not it's true, I just wanted to read it out loud for the benefit of mankind. Writing a book on geopolitics, titled, appropriately enough, Foundations of Geopolitics, derived from obscure rational traditionalist and other reactionary ideologues such as Julius Evola and Nimrod de Rosario, claiming that telocracy, a land-based politics, particularly on ley lines, is inherently more stable than thallocracy, a sea-based politics, because the former promotes peace, stability, tradition, and family, while the latter promotes degeneracy, aka human rights, democracy, and small L liberalism, which is somehow bad. So the best part about this is a believer in esoteric Hitlerism, a weird blend of Nazi occultism. Sorry, even every time I read this out loud, it's difficult. A weird blend of Nazi occultism, neo-Gnosticism, and the Theosophy, claiming that Hitler was some kind of divine being who can't even say this out loud. Hitler was some kind of divine being who incarnated to purge the world of degeneracy and whatnot. I actually kind of want to read this book because it sounds, but I think it's peak yikes. Can we get more yikes? I mean, I learn things all the time. Okay, I learn things all the time, and if this is the new thing that we need to defend, sure. And I mean, in his own words, you don't really need to look towards any kind of strange Hitler occultism. This is him being interviewed by Canadian superstar Lauren Southern.
Should rediscover our identity, Western European identity. You should, or you'd better do. And that will, this postmodern or pre-modern at the same time, West will be really example. That's the only way to make the West great again is to return to the pre-modern European tradition, to the sacred roots of European identity, without any fear of what they will say. So because the problem is with us, not with the other. So we and American people voting for Trump, electing Trump, has proved that it is sovereign. It is really decision maker. So we need to awaken this dimension in our people, not imitating Eastern or other traditions. So we should continue our own tradition. So I don't understand when the people...
Now this is really mask on, by the way, okay? So I think he knew that he was going to be on a mainstream Canadian YouTuber, so he's definitely not saying some of the more outlandish things that you expect, but you can understand underneath the surface what is being said here, of course, right? We can only make progress forward by moving backwards towards some kind of former traditionalism, the idea of nationalism. You get a taste, if nothing, like there's a small effervescence of obviously not the Nazi occultism, but the traditionalism incarnate. Yes, absolutely.
People trying to save sacred, imitate, for example, Islam or other tradition. We have our own tradition, spiritual tradition. This Islam could be the friend, traditional Islam, in Iranian Islam, Sufi Islam, Shia Islam, that is based on the Indo-European values. But that is tradition for them. We have other tradition, and more will be traditionalist. More we will find good solution how coexist with other. So when we are losing our identity, so we shouldn't blame the other. They use that. So we are guilty ourselves, and we should fight for that for ourselves. We should be not only reactionaries. We should be revolutionaries.
Do you mind if I quickly ask if you could define modernity for people?
That's, I suggest the reading of René books and Julius Evola's book. But the idea that, for example, tradition is hierarchy. So on the top of the society should be philosopher, should be wise men, should be spiritual elite. The noblest aristocracy should consist from the warriors who are brave and who could prove that they fighting against the death. So this aristocracy, spiritual elite and warriors elite, they represented always highest classes of traditional European society. And the peasantry was the third function of this in the European normative society.
So yeah, this is a video from Lauren Southern's own channel. And going back to Mr. Caleb Maupin, obviously supporting these kind of figures publicly is very, very dangerous. It's not something I think anyone should not take lightly, especially for someone who is, again, a relatively prominent leftist in certain circles. Now, I reached out to both, American Johnson, Non-Compete, and Luna, and I told them, because they're friends with Caleb, and they've obviously had online interactions with him and whatnot, and said directly, by the way, are you aware of any of this? They had no idea, and they immediately cut ties. Okay, so it's in no way something where there's guilt by association here, and please don't ever do that. I don't like that people do that. You don't have to look too far, though. The two of them actually have spoken together.
I'm a leftist. I come out of a left background, but I saw Donald Trump speak, and there were many times that he spoke, and I applauded. I heard him talk about how, there's this elite that is not loyal to the United States, these international bankers. I applauded when he said that. When he talked about
bankers.
how, in Syria, or in Iraq, and all these countries, we have attacked them, and the result has been terrorism getting stronger, and that the U.S. population is gaining nothing from these wars. I applauded when he said that. Now, I didn't agree with Trump about certain issues like immigration, certain issues like empowering the policing agencies in the United States, but in many ways, Trump was better than Hillary Clinton when it came to the concerns that are important to me. Bernie Sanders, he was removed from the race, and we had the choice of Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. And there were many people who would have voted for Bernie Sanders who voted for Donald Trump in the election. Populism is the future. Millennials, essentially, they are never allowed to become adults. They never are able to achieve the income level their parents had. They have a very low standard of living, and they essentially live out their adult life as if they're children almost. It's very weird. Anything that is conceived of as taking responsibility or growing up or being an adult is kind of frowned on.
I mean, this is almost indistinguishable from right-wing talking points, to say the very least. And it gets worse because the thing that always frightens you when it comes to traditionalism and conservatism is usually there's going to be some kind of, let's just say, anti-LGBTQ aspect to it all.
To live on the poverty line. This is quite a new phenomenon, and this is something that really came since 2008, this real plunge in people's living standards, and it's getting worse year on year.
Now, back to what I was asking you about before, about kind of distinguishing yourself as a communist from the mainstream of the left. I noticed that your political organization has taken quite a stand on the transgenderism debate. Can you talk about that position?
Sure. I mean, essentially, our view is, and it's not about people. We're not against a trans person. It's the ideology that's being pushed on people that says, you are what you think you are. Now, this is total idealism. Idealism in the philosophical sense of the opposite of materialism. It says, I think, therefore I am. Whatever I think, that's reality. Now, as a Marxist...
Are you invoking Descartes when it comes to turf rhetoric? Because that's new. I've never heard anyone do that. Interesting.
We have to uphold the idea that, or the reality, that material reality is real and is the basis of our ideas. A Marxist says, first there's reality, then our brain interprets reality and gets ideas. An idealist says, no, first there's the idea, and then the idea produces reality. Now, life teaches us that materialism is true. Materialism can be tested by science, by living. Idealism, is a human construct. It's what makes gods, okay? This transgender ideology is pure idealism. It says, if I feel something, it's true. We've all got our own reality. We've all got our own way of... Now, of course, we all have our own feelings. Yes, can't dispute that. But your feelings are a reflection of something. Your feelings come from somewhere. We would say that material reality exists, and sexual differences between men and women exist. They're not imaginary. They're not a societal construct. The transgender ideologists, and I do want to keep making this clear, we're not talking about individuals. We're talking about those who push an ideology. So, before I start getting accused of hate speech, this is about ideas. This is a rational debate about ideas. Yeah. It's not me.
No, it's not hateful. Okay, did you hear me invoke Descartes? Okay, Marx. I spoke of Marx, ideology. Okay, I could do some Hegel. Do you want dialectical materialism? We could do that as well. Okay, it's not hate speech. Okay, I'm justifying everything I'm saying. All right, there's reasons behind this.
Hating anybody. Okay, but the people who push this transgender ideology have tried to make a confusion and say that gender is something different to sex. It isn't. They're talking about gender stereotypes. So a gender stereotype is something that a society has, and some of it may reflect reality and some of it may not. Some of it may reflect the history, the class basis, whatever, of that particular society. Some of it may reflect some reality.
Not pushing back on any of this.
We have a stereotype that women's hands are more gentle. Well, in fact, that's based in reality, because women have twice as many sense receptors in their hands than men. There's a biological reason for that. You know, we are biologically designed to carry and to feed and to nurture babies. So it makes sense for us to have very sensitive hands. Babies are very delicate. You know, that is not a stereotype that I've, you know, just made up to oppress men or women with. It's a biological fact. You know, biological facts don't oppress us. They're things we need to learn how to recognize and live with. Freedom, Marxists say, is the appreciation of necessity. You know, it's a reality that women have babies and men have penises. And, you know, the idea that you can say that saying these things is oppressive, repressive, is pushing stereotypes is nonsense. One of the things that really upsets me as a woman, if I can say those loaded words, is that the transgender ideologues say they claim to be fighting stereotypes. In fact, they push the most heinous stereotypes of femininity and masculinity. And they just say, if you don't fit into the one you were born into, pick the other one. That's not fighting a stereotype, that's accepting it wholesale. How many transgender women, I get confused, excuse me, about which way around I'm supposed to say it, but, you know, a man who claims to be a woman.
I didn't, like, why learn? Like, I get confused. I'm not, what's the PC thing I have to say, but I'm not willing to actually ask anyone or learn about it, so, you know.
How many of those people have you seen just looking like an ordinary working class woman? They feel the need to do a whole glammed up cleavage, high heels, lipstick, like a very sexualized, stereotypical idea of womanhood. Us ordinary born women, most of us are not interested in any of that. That is quite oppressive to women. That look that they go for is a look that we'll be happy to see disappear into history, and they're kind of perpetuating it.
Well, I wanted to ask you, as you made reference to that, you all.
No, so no pushback at all of anything that was just said in the past like 5 minutes. None of that. That was all okay. All right. Well, we learned something, and let's move on to the next topic, I guess. That's okay. Normal stuff. I will say this. Original, some new, like, these are new levels of turfism I haven't heard. I've never heard it from the, you know, the historical materialism aspect, and just a little bit of Marx in there too. So we got that. This new things, and of course I don't think it has any reflection upon himself as you know, a content
this belief
creator.
that there's some kind of, you know, vast underground Nazi conspiracy, and that you know, that I mean, this is really getting silly. You know, it's getting to the point that, okay, so say that you're a leftist, but you are correct and not wanting a war with Syria. Well, according to some forces, you're now an Assadist, and Assad is a fascist. So you're the equivalent of Adolf Hitler. If you don't want, you know, if you don't support the revolution in Syria, you're the equivalent of Adolf Hitler. Or say that you know, whatever, you're a feminist and you buy into some of the criticisms of the transgender movement, right? Well, you therefore are a TERF, and therefore a fascist, and therefore the equivalent of Adolf Hitler. Oh, or say that you admire, you know, a socialist government around the world that other leftists think is authoritarian. Well, then you're a tanky and a Nazbol, and you're the equivalent of Adolf Hitler. That's the way certain leftists are talking right now. And that should be very, very dangerous to people. People should be concerned about this. You know, and it's one thing to just say you're wrong, right? You're wrong on the transgender issue. You're wrong on supporting the Syrian government. You're wrong on supporting this socialist government. That's fine. But no. You're the equivalent of Adolf Hitler. You're a fascist. And keep in mind that now in leftist circles, not only, you know, are fascists bad, I mean, they are, I mean, they've always been bad, but if you accuse somebody of being a fascist, it therefore becomes justified to be violent against them, right? So keep in mind, in left-wing circles, if you support an anti-imperialist government, if you have questions about the transgender issue and are not in line with the transgender movement, if you know...
Oh, whoa, okay, wait, hold on. That's a bit of a leap. So if you support an anti-imperialist government, okay, go on. I'm interested. And then the next part, if you support the transgender movement, and oh wait, sorry, so why? That's a bit of a leap. The trans question.
Imperialist government. If you have questions about the transgender issue and are not in line with the transgender movement, if you are, opposing war in Syria, if you're friendly to Russia, you deserve to be violently attacked and killed. That's basically what a lot of these Antifa forces are saying.
So I wanted to point this out because you know how people joke about this kind of stuff, like they don't exist, or this whole rhetoric doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist on the left either. It does. It does. You'll find some new things. One thing that is a little bit interesting, by the way, and I did want to point this out. I wanted to end with something hilarious because last time on the stream,
If you are one of the
oh, it's still there. Okay, thank God. Because on the one, oh, that's because I'm already subscribed. Interesting. All right, so we'll end with a little bit of candy. If you haven't already seen this, by the way, this is just okay. This is Who is Caleb Maupin, an animated intro, done with a corporate animation software website that anyone can use. It's quite easy to make these.
many people getting interested in socialism and world politics these days, you've probably heard of Caleb Maupin. So, who is Caleb Maupin? A journalist, political analyst, TV personality, and author. Caleb is a 21st century socialist and advocate of international friendship and cooperation.
Oh, that's a good word for it. Prager USSR. I like it.
He first rose to prominence through socialist organizing in Cleveland, Ohio. In 2010, Caleb attended a student walkout protesting teacher layoffs and filmed an instance of police brutality.
Now, this is just one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. And at first, when I first saw it, I was like, well, he doesn't know how to use the software. That's all there is to it. He doesn't know how to use the animation software, and that's why he accidentally put video of himself smiling while filming this police brutality. Odd, by the way. I don't know if this is how it went down, but it was two black cops beating up two black women, and he filmed the whole thing. So while smiling, by the way. But again, it just gonna give a bit of an olive branch here. Maybe he just didn't know how to use the animation software, right? That's all there is to it.
Against two African-American high school students. The introduction of his video footage as evidence in juvenile court resulted in a verdict of not guilty for one of the two young women. Cleveland Scene magazine describes Caleb at the time. The 22-year-old is chatty and affable. When it comes to talking politics, he's obviously done his homework.
Wait, so from the news article on the police brutality, the part that you decided to take out for this promotional video that you're making is about how you yourself are chatty and affable. So neat.
Facts, dates, obscure legislation, the fates of forgotten labor leaders, snippets of protest songs. In part, he's learned the game as a careful student of history, but he also sees himself as an inheritor of the radical tradition. In 2011, when the Occupy Wall Street movement took root in New York City, Caleb was at the center of the action. At the first General Assembly, he gave a fiery speech built around the phrase and idea of class against class. He also urged the Occupy movement to take a stand against the bombing of Libya at a time when most leftists weren't even aware of it. After Occupy, Caleb decided...
I mean, I could say citation needed, but most of this is citation needed, so I think that would just be, redundant at this point.
It was time to get a haircut and start traveling. Soon he was speaking at important conferences in Iran, Ecuador, Venezuela, Brazil, and Russia. In 2013, he led the Hands Off Syria protests, demanding the end of American efforts to overthrow the Syrian government. Appearing on CNN, Caleb urged President Obama himself not to launch a new war. In 2015, Caleb was invited to join with the Red Crescent Society of Iran, delivering medical supplies to war-torn Yemen. The rescue ship created an international incident, and Saudi Arabia bombed the port of Hodeidah 8 times in a single day to keep Caleb and the...
Like, it's just change the music, my dude, or something. I don't know. Like, that shouldn't be like a hilarious cartoony moment. Same with the police beatings. Like, I don't know. Like,
small group of medical volunteers from arriving. Since that time, Caleb's writing has been translated into a number of languages. He's been featured and quoted on China.org, Forbes, The Nation, Democracy Now!, and many other outlets.
I am jealous
He
of
works
that
as
last
a
one.
reporter for the International Television Network, RT, and his work is viewed by millions every day. Caleb never turns down an opportunity to debate in favor of socialism, whether against liberals, conservatives.
He turned down mine. He also turned down Tree of Logics, by the way. Just that's two.
Fascists or anarchists. Caleb Maupin is a Marxist, anti-racist, and feminist. He opposes all forms of oppression, but he's also a Christian.
Well, depends. If it's for trans women, I don't think he's too much of a feminist. Let me just say that much.
And a patriotic American. He remains critical of the pessimism and destructiveness found in some leftist circles, and urges the American left to rediscover the traditions of class struggle and anti-imperialism. Caleb's book, City Builders and Vandals in Our Age, has been described as a groundbreaking analysis of capitalism and geopolitics. He's now in the process of forming a think tank called the Center for Political Innovation that aims to expand the conversation about how the USA can get past the crisis of greed, wars, and market-spawned chaos. The slogan and message that Caleb wants to popularize is, "We need a government of action to fight for working families." If this sounds interesting to you, do yourself a favor. Subscribe to this channel and start engaging with what Caleb Maupin has to say. He's got a unique socialist perspective formed by real-life experiences in the class struggle. Check out his website, calebmaupin.com, and stay in touch with him on Facebook and Twitter.
You should. If you go to his website, you'll see some of his books that are for sale. And that'll be my ending point. I know I've been going on this for way too long, but it's just like I had to put a bow on this whole story because I don't have to ever talk about it again. But if you do, you'll see some of his literature. And I would hearken you to check out Satan at the Fountainhead, The Israel Lobby and Financial Crisis by Caleb T. Maupin. On sale right now for $91. Yeah, definitely a justifiable price to pay for this incredibly anti-Semitic hit piece, by the way. The whole thing, of course, talks about the international banking conglomerate, and, there is only one left. Yeah, if you want it. I mean, if you don't grab it, I'm sure maybe some far-right ideologue might. Who knows? Maybe Dugan will buy it. He probably afford it. And of the two reviews, one of them says Jew hatred for the 21st century. All the tentacles of the Zionist octopus are united in one goal: exploiting and stealing money from U.S. workers and using it to fund the exceptionalist colonial settler racist state of Israel. U.S. workers who lost the good paying factory jobs in Detroit and Cleveland must now work for a pittance at Walmart and should blame the Zionists. Workers whose family used to be middle class but now live in crumbling cities devastated by austerity budgets should blame the Zionists. Black workers whose kids were killed by cops who share training methods with Israeli cops should also blame the Zionists. So, there you have it. He's an oddity. All right, he's definitely not. There's not a lot of them. Okay, I don't think Nazbols are on the whole in any way a giant threat to the left, but there's one. There is one, and that happens to be Caleb. So, so good old Caleb.
To our monarch, Thomas Bone, you are the light that guides our path. To our lords, I'm Raph, Stephen, Ninetails Cosmic Fox, and Hans Josephine, we bow meekly for your pleasure. To our knights of the Round Table, Josh Mickelson, Dylan Byth, Alexander Thaler, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, Todd Lajeunesse, Clement Schutzkopf, Skybear Games, Moss Beast, Political Puppy, Alan R., Andreas Chitoro, Good Poon Hates Cops, That's Solid Poon then, we salute you. And to all our merchants and farmers, you have our undying loyalty and love.